The massive space station stretched across the dark void like a glittering city made of crystal and metal. Minho Kim pressed his small face against the viewport of their transport ship, watching as countless alien vessels docked at the Galactic Tribunal's countless ports. Ships that looked like giant jellyfish floated alongside sleek silver triangles and blocky cargo holders that seemed to be held together with nothing but hope and spare parts. First time seeing the Tribunal station, Captain Lenari asked, adjusting her blue uniform as she sat beside the 7-year-old boy. Her voice was gentle, but Minho could hear the worry underneath. She had been taking care of him for 3 weeks now, ever since his mother was rested. Minho nodded, still clutching the small white flower in his tiny fist. The petals were starting to wilt, but he refused to let it go. "It's really big," he whispered. "Bigger than Seoul Station." Leonori smiled sadly. "Much bigger, little one. This is where all the important decisions are made for our part of the galaxy. Representatives from hundreds of worlds come here. Their transport ship, a sleek human vessel called the Defender's Hope, glided smoothly into the docking bay. The artificial gravity kicked in with a soft hum, and Minho felt his stomach do a little flip. He had never been in space before all this started 3 weeks ago. He was just a normal kid going to school on Earth. Now, he was traveling between stars to help save his mother. The docking bay was enormous, filled with creatures Minho had only seen in his science books. Tall, graceful beings with forearms and silver skin directed traffic with glowing batons. Short, furry creatures that looked like walking teddy bears rolled cargo containers on anti-gravity platforms. In one corner, a group of rock-like aliens sat perfectly still, and Minho couldn't tell if they were sleeping or just thinking really hard. "Remember what we practiced," Lenoi said as they walked down the ship's ramp. "Just tell the truth about what you saw. That's all anyone can ask of you." Minho squeezed his flower tighter. "Will Mama be there?" "Yes, she will be there, but she'll be sitting with the other defendants. You won't be able to talk to her until after the hearing." They walked through corridors that seemed to go on forever. The walls were made of some kind of smart material that shifted colors as they passed, showing scenes from different worlds. Minho saw purple oceans under twin suns, cities that floated in the clouds, and forests where the trees grew upside down. It was beautiful and scary at the same time. Other humans passed them in the hallways, most wearing the same blue uniforms as Captain Lee. They nodded respectfully to her, but their eyes were worried. Everyone knew this trial was important. If the humans were found guilty of war crimes, it could mean the end of their participation in the Galactic Alliance. Earth might be cut off from the rest of the galaxy forever. "Captain Lee," a voice called out. They turned to see a tall man with kind eyes jogging to catch up with them. "I'm Commander Park Taiho from the legal department. Is this our star witness?" Minho looked up at the man nervously. He didn't feel like a star anything. He just wanted his mom back. "Hello, Minho," Commander Park said, kneeling down to the boys. "Level. I know this is scary, but you're going to help a lot of people today. Can you tell me what you're holding?" Minho opened his hand slightly, showing the white flower. "It's from our garden. Mama planted it before she left for the mission." Commander Park's expression grew serious. "That's a very special flower, isn't it? Mama said it would help me remember her while she was gone. She said it grew in special dirt." The adults exchanged glances that Minho didn't understand, but he could tell the flower was more important than he realized. They reached the courtroom doors, which were tall enough for the biggest aliens to walk through comfortably. The sound of many different voices speaking in languages Minho had never heard drifted through the cracks. Mechanical translators hummed and clicked as they converted speech from one language to another. The judges are from 12 different species, Captain Lee explained quietly. Some of them have never seen a human child before. Don't be afraid if they look strange. Minho took a deep breath through the doors. He could hear his mother's voice, calm and steady as she answered questions. She sounded tired but strong, just like always. "I'm ready," he said, surprising himself with how brave he sounded. Captain Lee squeezed his shoulder gently. "Your mother would be so proud of you." The doors opened, and the future of humanity walked in, 7 years old and carrying a flower that held the key to everything. The courtroom fell silent as Prosecutor Velta stepped forward. The alien was tall and thin, with skin that shimmered like oil on water and eyes that had no pupils. When he spoke, his voice came out in musical tones that the translation devices turned into cold. "Formal words, honored judges of the Galactic Tribunal," Velta began. "Today, we will see evidence of humanity's true nature. Not the heroes they claim to be, but selfish creatures who abandon their allies when danger comes." Minho sat in the witness section, his small legs dangling from the chair that was built for much larger beings. He could see his mother across the room, sitting straight and proud in the defendant's chair. Dr. Kim Sora looked tired, but her eyes were bright and determined. When she spotted Minho, she gave him the smallest smile and touched her heart with her hand. It was their secret signal that meant "I love you." Captain Lenari sat beside Minho, her hand resting protectively on his shoulder. Round them, the massive courtroom buzzed with activity. Aliens of every shape and size filled the gallery. Some floated in tanks of green liquid. Others perched on crystal branches that grew from the floor, and a few massive creatures lay cold in specially built alcoves, their breathing creating a gentle rumble that Minho could feel in his chest. "Let us examine the evidence," Velta announced. The lights dimmed, and a huge holographic display appeared in the center of the courtroom. The image showed a planet's surface, all gray rock and twisted metal. Smoke rose from burning buildings, and the sky was filled with enemy ships that looked like angry wasps. "This is Altair 7, the prosecutor explained. A peaceful mining colony where humans and Altairians worked side by side for 20 years. Until the Keth Raiders attacked, the hologram zoomed in, showing the evacuation site. Minho recognized it immediately. He had heard his mother talking about this place in her sleep. When the nightmares came, long lines of blue-skinned Altairians, some badly hurt, were being helped onto transport ships. Human soldiers in their powered armor moved among them, carrying the wounded and organizing the escape. At first, Velta continued, it appeared the humans were helping. But watch what happens when the real danger arrives. New ships appeared in the hologram, sleek black vessels that moved like sharks through water. Red energy beams lanced down from the sky, turning rocks to glass and metal to vapor. The Keth Raiders had found the evacuation site. Minho watched as his mother appeared in the recording, even in the grainy hologram. He could tell it was her by the way she moved, quick and decisive. She was shouting orders to her medical team, pointing toward the transport ships where wounded Altairians were still being loaded. "Now observe carefully," Velta said, his voice growing colder. "When the enemy attacks, watch how quickly human owner disappears." The recording showed Commander Park Jun-ho running toward Dr. Kim Sora. His power armor was already damaged, sparks flying from the shoulder joint behind him. His soldiers were pulling back from their positions round the Altairian. "Civilians, fall back. All units, fall back." Commander Park's voice crackled through the recording. "We can't hold this position." The judges leaned forward in their seats. Some of them made sounds that the translators couldn't convert. Others simply stared with whatever they used for eyes. In the hologram, human soldiers were running away from the Altarians, the blue-skinned aliens, moving slowly because of their injuries, called out in their musical language. Some reached toward the retreating humans with their arms, begging for help. You see, Velta's voice rose triumphantly. When death comes calling, humans think only of themselves. They abandoned their allies to save their own skins. A gasp went through the courtroom. Several alien judges began talking at once in their native languages, creating a symphony of clicks, whistles, and harmonic tones. The head judge, a massive creature that looked like a walking tree, raised one branch for silence. Minho felt tears starting in his eyes. The recording made it look so bad. He wanted to jump up and shout that it wasn't true, that his mother would never abandon anyone. But Captain Lee's hand tightened on his shoulder, reminding him to wait. The result of this chaos, Velta continued, was predictable. 47 Altarian civilians died in that evacuation site, 47 souls who trusted humans. To protect them, the prosecutor waved his hand, and the hologram changed to show the aftermath. The evacuation site was a crater of melted rock and twisted metal. Minho had to look away. The defendant, Dr. Kim Sora, was the commanding officer of the medical unit. She gave the order to retreat. She chose to save human lives over Altarian lives. This is not the action of an ally. This is the action of a species that sees others as expendable. Dr. Kim Sora stood up slowly. Even from across the room, Minho could see her hands shaking slightly, but her voice was steady when she spoke. "I accept responsibility for my decisions on Altair 7, she said clearly, but I reject the prosecutor's interpretation of events. The courtroom erupted in noise again. Some aliens seemed angry, others confused. Minho clutched his wilted flower tighter, feeling its soft petals against his palm. The evidence looked terrible. Even Minho had to admit that. But he knew something the prosecutor didn't know, something that would change everything. He just had to be brave enough to tell it. The witness stand seemed enormous to Minho as he climbed the steps. His small feet barely made a sound on the crystalline surface. But somehow the entire courtroom heard each step. Hundreds of alien eyes, sensors, and other things he couldn't name turned to watch him. The chair was so big that when he sat down, his feet didn't even come close to touching the floor. "State your name for the record," the head judge said. His voice was like wind through leaves, deep and ancient. The translator made it sound gentle, but Minho could hear the power underneath. "Minho Kim," he said quietly. Then, remembering what Captain Lee had taught him, he spoke louder. "My name is Minho Kim. I'm 7 years old." A ripple of sound went through the courtroom. Some aliens had never seen a human child before. Others whispered to each other in languages that sounded like music or machinery or the ocean. During a storm, Minho, the judge, continued, "You understand that you are here to tell the truth about what you saw?" "Yes, yes, sir." Minho looked across the room at his mother. She was sitting very straight, her hands folded in her lap. When their eyes met, she touched her heart again and mouthed the words, "Be brave." Prosecutor Velta stood up, his shimmering skin reflecting the courtroom's lights. "Young human, you were on Altair 7 during the evacuation, correct?" "Yes, I was visiting Mama at the medical station. She said I could help carry supplies." "And you saw what happened when the Keth raiders attacked?" Minho nodded. "I saw everything. I was hiding in the supply bunker like Mama told me to. Then you witnessed your mother's unit abandoning the Altarian civilians." "No." Minho's voice was stronger now. That's not what happened at all. The prosecutor's alien features shifted in what might have been. Surprise, but you saw the humans retreat, leaving the Eltarians behind. I saw them do something really brave. Minho said. He held up his flower, its white petals now brown round the edges. Do you know what this is? A plant specimen? Velta said dismissively. It's a memorial flower. Mama grew it in special dirt. Minho's voice grew steadier as he spoke. The dirt came from the crater where the Altarians were saved. A murmur went through the courtroom. The head judge leaned forward. Please explain, young one. Minho took a deep breath. The Keth raiders were coming with their plasma cannons. You know what plasma fire does to Altarians, right? Several of the alien judges nodded. Altarians were famous throughout the galaxy for their beautiful blue skin. But that same skin couldn't handle intense heat. Plasma fire that might just burn a human would cook an Eltarian from the inside out. But humans are different. Minho continued. We heal really fast. And we can survive burns that would kill other people. Mama taught me that. She said it's because we come from a world where everything tries to hurt us. What does this have to do with the retreat? Velta demanded. It wasn't retreat. Minho said, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. It was a trick. Mana knew the Keth ships would follow the humans because we were the ones shooting back. So she told Commander Park to take all the soldiers and run in the opposite direction from the Eltarians. The courtroom fell completely silent. Even the constant hum of life support systems seemed to quiet down. The Keth raiders followed the humans, Minho explained. They chased them across the valley, shooting their plasma cannons, and while they were busy trying to kill the humans, the Eltarian transport ships took off safely. But that would mean. One of the judges started to say, it means the humans use themselves as bait. Minho finished. They let the bad guys shoot at them so the Eltarians could escape. Prosecutor Velta Eskin began to shift colors rapidly. But the casualties, the human deaths, nobody died. Minho said quietly, not from Mama's unit. They got burned really bad. But humans don't die easy. Commander Park was in the hospital for 2 months. Mana had to grow new skin on her back and arms. But they all lived. He held up his flower again. This grew in the dirt where they got it. Mana said human blood makes things grow strong. She planted it to remember what they did. The head judge spoke carefully. Are you saying that the human retreat was a deliberate tactical maneuver designed to draw enemy fire away from vulnerable civi? Lions, I'm saying my mama and her friends let themselves get hurt so other people could live, Minho said. Just like humans always do. But why didn't they explain this before? Another judge asked. Minho looked at his mother, who had tears in her eyes. Because humans don't like to brag about being heroes. Mama says if you have to tell people you're brave, then you're probably not. The courtroom erupted in noise. Aliens were talking, clicking, whizzing, and singing all at once. Some were looking at the humans in the gallery with what might have been respect. Others seemed confused or amazed. The human child speaks the truth, a voice called out from the back of the courtroom. Everyone turned to see a tall Eltarian walking forward. His blue skin was marked with scars, but his forearms moved gracefully as he spoke. I am Zethrin, survivor of Altair 7. I saw the humans draw the enemy away. I saw them burn so that we might live. The child's testimony is accurate. More Eltarians stood up throughout the courtroom. They had been sitting quietly in the gallery, waiting for their chance to speak. Now they came forward. All of them bearing the same scars. All of them alive because humans had chosen to suffer in their place. Minho smiled and carefully put his flower back in his pocket. The truth was finally out. The Altarian survivor, Zethrin, walked slowly to the center of the courtroom. His forearms moved in the graceful patterns that his people use when telling important stories. The scars on his blue skin caught the light, creating patterns that looked almost like writing. Honorable judges, he began, his voice like gentle music. This human child speaks what we have been too ashamed to say ourselves. We lived because humans chose to die for us. Minho watched from the witness stand as more Altarians stood up throughout the courtroom. He counted 12, then 20, then stopped counting because there were too many. Each one bore scars, and each one was alive. But I don't understand, said Judge Korith, a crystalline being whose body rang like bells when he spoke. Why would humans not explain this during their defense? Dr. Kim Sora stood up from the defendant's chair. Because, Your Honor, we don't consider it special. We consider it Tuesday. A confused murmur went through the alien judges. Minho giggled despite himself. His mama always said funny things when she was nervous. What my mother means, Minho said, standing up on his chair so everyone could see him better, is that humans do this stuff all the time. We don't think it makes us heroes. We just think it makes us human. Captain Linai activated a holographic display from her seat. With the court's permission, I'd like to show additional evidence that wasn't available during the initial investigation. The head judge nodded, and the courtroom lights dimmed again. This time, the hologram showed the same battle from a different angle, from inside the human medical bunker where Minho had been hiding. This is footage from Minho's personal recorder. Captain Lee explained, a device his mother gave him to document their visit to Altair 7. The hologram showed 7-year-old Minho crouched behind supply crates, his small hands shaking as he held the recording device through the bunker's window. They could see the evacuation site clearly. Look there, Minho said, pointing at the image. See how Mama positioned her people? The recording showed Dr. Kim Sora's medical team spread out in a wide circle round the wounded Altarians. But they weren't just giving medical care. They were forming a living shield between the aliens and the direction the Keth raiders would come from. Standard human protective formation, Commander Park Taiho said from the gallery. We learned it fighting the wild animals on Earth. Always put the strong ones on the outside. Protect the weak ones in the middle, the hologram continued, showing the moment when the Keth ships appeared. In perfect synchronization, every human in the area began moving. But they weren't running away. They were running in carefully planned directions. Watch Commander Park's unit. Minho said, see how they split up? 3 groups, all go in different ways. They made themselves into targets so the bad guys would know which way to shoot first. The alien judges leaned forward as the truth became clear. The humans had turned themselves into decoys, each group drawing enemy fire away from the evacuation site. They moved with the precision of a dance, each soldier knowing exactly where to go to pull the Keth raiders' attention away from the vulnerable Altarians, the plasma bombardment. Jadvel Tar observed. It followed the humans, every single shot. Zethrin confirmed. The Keth ships chased the humans like hunters chasing prey. They never even looked at us again. In the hologram, they could see Dr. Kim Sora's group taking the most dangerous route, straight toward the enemy ships. She was running at the front, making herself the biggest target. Behind her, human medics carried wounded Altarians as far as they could before handing them off to their own people and turning back to face the enemy. The humans absorbed 17 direct plasma hits, announced a mechanical voice from somewhere in the courtroom. Everyone turned to see a robot, rolling forward on tank treads. Its body was covered in sensors, and its head looked like a metal flower. This is Medical Unit 7749, Captain Lee explained. It was monitoring all life signs during the battle. 17 plasma hits that would have killed any Altarian instantly. The robot continued in its flat, electronic voice. Human casualties. 0 deaths, 43 severe injuries, all recovered within 60 standard days. Minho reached into his pocket and pulled out his flower again. Under the courtroom's bright lights, everyone could see that its roots were stained dark red. Mama bled for 3 hours while they fixed her skin. Minho said quietly. She kept asking if all the blue people got away safe. When they said yes, she smiled and went to sleep. Later, when we got home to Earth, she planted this flower in the dirt where her blood had fallen. The courtroom was completely silent now. Even the life support systems seemed to be holding their breath. She said the flower would. Remember, Minho continued, she said that when something good grows from something painful, it means the pain was worth it. Dr. Kim Sora was crying now, tears streaming down her face as she looked at her son. Round the courtroom, other humans were crying too, but so were some of the aliens. This is why we didn't mention it in our defense, Dr. Kim Sora said, her voice strong despite her tears, because to humans, this isn't exceptional behavior. This is just what you do when someone needs help. You help them, even if it hurts, even if it kills you. Commander Park Jun-ho added from his wheelchair in the gallery. His legs were still healing from the plasma burns, but his voice was proud. Judge Corritz's crystalline body rang like a bell as he spoke. In all my centuries of service to this tribunal, I have never seen such evidence. Humans deliberately chose to suffer so that others might live. Not just chose, Minho said, standing up on his chair again. We're good at it. Humans are really hard to kill, and we heal super fast. So when bad things happen, we're the ones who should get hurt instead of everyone else. The head judge was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice carried the weight of ages. This tribunal stands corrected. What we interpreted as abandonment was actually the greatest act of selfless courage we have ever witnessed. Minho smiled and carefully put his flower away. The truth wasn't just out now. It was changing everything. The head judge stood up slowly, his massive tree-like form casting shadows across the entire courtroom. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of 1,000 worlds. This tribunal has reached its decision, he announced. All charges against Dr. Kim Sora and the human military forces are hereby dismissed with honor. The courtroom erupted in cheers, but not just from the humans. Altarians sang in their musical language, their forearms moving in celebration patterns. The crystalline beings chimed like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Even the rock-like alien shifted and rumbled. In what might have been applause, Minho jumped down from the witness stand and ran toward his mother. The defendant's chair seemed to dissolve away as Dr. Kim Sora rushed to meet him halfway. When they collided in the middle of the courtroom, she swept him up in her arms and spun him round. Both of them laughing and crying at the same time. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered in his ear. "You were so brave. I just told them the truth." "Mama," Minho said, holding up his wilted flower. "Like you taught me." Captain Lenari joined them, her own eyes bright with unched tears. "Well done, little hero. Well done." But the head judge wasn't finished. Furthermore, he continued, and the courtroom fell quiet again. This tribunal formally recognizes humanity's unique role in the Galactic Alliance. From this day forward, humans shall be designated as the official protector species of the galaxy. A gasp went through the crowd in the entire history of the Galactic Alliance. No species had ever been given such a title. What does that mean? Minho asked, still in his mother's arms. Judge Korath's crystalline body rang softly as he explained. It means, young one, that when any world faces danger, they can call upon human forces for protection. Your people have proven that they alone possess the courage and resilience to stand between the innocent and harm. Prosecutor Velta stepped forward, his shimmering skin now showing colors that the translator identified as embarrassment and regret. I apologize to the court and to the humans present. I misunderstood what I was seeing. I called cowardice what was actually the greatest bravery. Dr. Kim Sora set Minho down and walked over to the prosecutor. To everyone's surprise, she extended her hand in the human gesture of friendship. You were doing your job, she said simply. No apology needed. The alien stared at her hand for a moment, then carefully reached out with one of his long, thin fingers to touch her palm. Your species continues to amaze me, he said softly. Oh, this is just the beginning. Commander Park Jun-ho called out from his wheelchair. Wait until you see what we do when we're actually trying to show off. Laughter rippled through the courtroom, but it was interrupted by a chiming sound from the judge's bench. The head judge was receiving an urgent communication. It appears, he said, that we have our first request for human protection services. The mining colonies of Tausetia are under attack by space pirates. They formally request immediate assistance from Earth's Defense Corps. Captain Leonari straightened her uniform. How many ships do they need? They're asking for everything you can spare. The judge replied, the pirates have a fleet of 50 vessels. 50. Minho said, looking worried. That sounds like a lot. Captain Lee grinned. For pirates, that's just a warm-up exercise. She activated her communicator. This is Captain Lee to Earth Command. We have our first official protection mission. Scramble the Third Fleet. Mom, came the reply. The Third Fleet is 300 ships. Isn't that overkill for 50 pirates? Negative, Lee said, her grin getting wider. We're the official protector species now. We need to make a good first impression. More chiming sounds came from various parts of the courtroom as other species began receiving their own communications. Within minutes, requests for human protection were pouring in from all over the galaxy. The Kepler colonies want help with asteroid defense, announced a floating jellyfish-like alien. The Vega trade routes are being threatened by raiders, added a mechanical voice from somewhere in the ceiling. Our agricultural worlds need protection from crop-eating space locusts, said a creature that looked like a walking flower. Dr. Kim Sora laughed as she listened to the growing list. I think we're going to need a bigger fleet. We'll manage, Commander Park said confidently. Humans are very good at rising to meet challenges. The head judge raised a branch for silence. There is one more matter to address, he gestured, and a small drone floated down from the ceiling carrying a crystalline medal that sparkled within a light. Dr. Kim Sora, for your extraordinary service to the cause of galactic peace, you are hereby awarded the Star of Honor, the highest decoration this tribunal can bestow. As the medal was placed round her neck, Dr. Kim Sora looked down at her son. This belongs to all of us, she said, every human who chose to stand between danger and innocent people. And every little boy brave enough to tell the truth, Captain Lee added, ruffling Minho's hair. Outside the courtroom's massive windows, ships were already moving. The first human protection fleet was forming up, ready to answer the galaxy's call for help. Sleek fighters danced around massive carriers, while supply ships loaded with medical equipment and humanitarian aid prepared for their missions. Minho pressed his face to the window, watching the ships prepare to depart. Mama, are we really going to protect the whole galaxy? Dr. Kim Sora knelt beside him. following his gaze to the stars beyond. "We're going to try, sweetheart, just like we always have, because that's what humans do." Because that's what humans do. As they watched, the first protection fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying hope and help to worlds in need. Behind them, more ships were already preparing for the next mission, and the next, and the next. The galaxy had found its guardians. And they came from a small blue world where everything tried to hurt you, but where people learned to protect each other anyway. Minho carefully planted his wilted flower in a small pot he found on the windowsill. Even here, in this alien place among the stars, he knew it would grow strong, just like humans always did. The end.